I recognized the photos to be of my girlfriend. Same tattoo placement. I grab the phone from him and he immediately starts pleading his case. Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, gonna go over a story titled, "My son, a 21-year-old male, slept with my girlfriend, a 32-year-old female, and I don't know how to process this level of betrayal." And guys, this story is about a guy. He is 37 years old. He has a girlfriend. She's 32, and his 21-year-old son hooked up with her. How's that one? This guy had his kid really young, as you can imagine, doing the math about the ages. He had the son at 16 years old, and his wife, the boy's mother, died about 4 years ago, I think from cancer or something. And he and their son both went through very hard times, very depressed and all that. And the guy finally moved on, got a girlfriend, thought she was a great one, right? Well, not so great, because she's seduced and effing his son. And this whole thing goes down on him discovering this, how he handles it with him, the whole 9 yards. Now, I've done stories where a guy finds out that his friend was hooking up with his girl, or in some cases his cousin or brother was hooking up with his girl, or I've had stories where the guy's father was hooking up with his girl or wife. But I've never had it where a guy found out that his girl was cheating with his son. This is all brand new here. And it's quite the story here, and definitely anybody with any kids, it'd be a tough situation to figure out how to handle it when you really get past all the anger and emotion. So, getting started, he says here, "I apologize in advance." Excuse me, guys. "I apologize in advance that this isn't the most coherent thing in the world. This is partially just me venting to the void. About 4 years ago, I lost my wife, the mother of our son, to lung cancer. We've been together since we were 14 years old. It was the darkest time of my life. I consider offing myself on a nearly daily basis. I pushed on for my son, and because my wife made me promise to make the most out of life. We had our son pretty young. I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, and thankfully was able to provide a decent upbringing until he moved out at 16. Although I still paid and continued to do so until this happened." He moved out at 16? Okay. As with every story, guys, there's the possibility it's not real, but benefit of the doubt here. I paid a portion of his bills. The loss was extremely hard on my son as well. He came back to stay with me for a while, and we worked through the grief together. I got him into therapy, pushed him to get involved in things to keep his mind busy, and when he moved back into his apartment, I'd call him every night to check on him and visit him multiple times a week. We were always extremely close. My wife told me outright after her diagnosis that she didn't want me alone, so I made myself available. My girlfriend and I met about 2 years ago, and we hit it off. She isn't my wife, but I loved her for who she was, and we really connected. I was reluctant to introduce her to my son because I was afraid he'd feel I was betraying his mother, so I held it off for the first year. That's a smart idea. And as you're about to see, it's a good thing he didn't introduce his girlfriend to his son. Which I regretted, as they ended up getting along very well. Yeah, no shit. We'd hang out together, my son was happy, and I was happy. She moved in with me about 5 months ago. Gee, what could go wrong? This past Thursday, he was over for dinner and movies. We've had this little game since he was a teen, where I'd pop up over his shoulder when he was on his phone in common areas and say, "Stop looking at that," in an accusing way to mess with him, even though he was never looking at anything. Turns out, this time he was doing something, and I seen topless photos on his phone. I recognized the photos to be of my girlfriend. Same tattoo placement between the breasts. I grab the phone from him, and he immediately starts pleading his case. What the hell is he going to say? It's not her. I go into the gallery, and there are easily 24 photos of my girlfriend. Some of him, I'm assuming, he sent to her. 1 or 2 of them together. By this time, he's crying and trying to grab the phone back. I check his text, and he has 2 weeks' worth of conversations with her, under a different name, detailing the fact that they've been effing around behind my back. My girlfriend is in the room begging to know what is going on. Holy shit. This is a first. I'm not proud of the fact that I lost myself. I screamed at them both. I smashed the phone. He says, yes, I know this is unacceptable. Yes, I'm in therapy. And yes, it's the first time I got aggressive with either of them. And I demanded details. Dude, nobody can blame you for screaming. And you know what? I'd scream too. And nobody can blame him for smashing his phone too, that little fucker. He's 21 years old. Okay? Not 13. He's 21 years old. A grown-ass man. My son kept apologizing, saying he didn't know why, and that only started 2 weeks ago, and they slept together a total of 3 times. Oh, well. It was only 2 weeks ago, no big deal. I mean, if it had been a month, then there's something to get upset about. My girlfriend was sobbing and kept trying to hug me, telling me it was a mistake, purely physical, and that she'd never speak to him again. I screamed at my son I'd given my life to him, that he knew what this meant to me, and that he was all I had left. I pulled him upstairs and gave him the money for his phone and kicked him out. Good. I'd kick his ass out too. He's 21 years old. He was in his own apartment before, pretty early in life I might add, but okay. He can take care of himself. I went upstairs to our bedroom, turned her drawers upside down, and packed her clothes into 2 travel bags while she kept asking me to listen. I put them outside, guided her through the door, and told her she could have someone else get the rest of her belongings this week. Both of them had been texting me nonstop until last night, at which point I blocked their numbers. I feel completely detached. The fact that after 2 years my girl, knowing my history, could betray me is painful enough, and absolutely nothing will make me forgive her. Good, I wouldn't forgive her. And while we're on the forgiveness thing, we can add the son to the list. 21 years old. I'm not a parent, so I don't know that kind of bond and connection. But he's hooking up with his girlfriend. Now, obviously, she's the freaking devil too, because she obviously was seducing this young guy, and for whatever reason, but oh my God. Goes on here, says here, I ache for my wife all over again. I know everyone processes grief differently, but this was 2 years after her passing. He had a girlfriend, and I was there for him, as were the therapists, every step of the way. So I have a hard time believing grief is the cause of all this decision. I can't see this as a mistake. He didn't trip and fall. It was a conscious choice to betray someone who loved him. I want to honor my wife by giving my son a chance to hold on to the little family I've left. But this isn't that like he stole money from me. It isn't even something that happened once while drunk. He was there for that grief with me. He knew how hard it was for me to move on. Of all the women, he chose mine. All the apologies of future effort can't erase the fact or the memory of it. I never did wrong by him, and now I feel like the kid I raised isn't there anymore. Thanks to friends, I'm not drifting into thoughts of self-harm again, but I don't know if I have it in me to ever forgive him. If and when that day comes, what steps I can take to process what happened. Talk to him without feeling disgust and open the door to trust him again. And if that day never comes, does that make me a bad person? It makes you human. I don't know what I could do in this situation. I mean, I can tell you right now, yes, I'd smash that phone, scream at them, kick them both out, and I'd tell that son, you're on your frickin' own, kid. I know darn well that in your heart, it's not best to go around carrying hate and to forgive for your own peace. But I sure as hell wouldn't forget. It'd be a long time before I'd even give that kid a chance to even speak to me. And he's 21. He can survive. Again, I've heard this friends doing this to guys, brothers doing this to guys, but their own kid doing it. He says, some brief clarification since people on the other relationship sub took this and ran with it. Number one, nothing caused him to move out. He asked. And he said it'd be cool if I helped pay his bills. No hidden resentment that I've ever been aware of. That means when he was younger. Number two, yes, popping up over his shoulder sometimes was something but we both found funny. No, it wasn't actually trying to invade his privacy. Yes, he is part of the joke. 3, yes, I know I was aggressive. I paid for the phone. I will be discussing it in therapy. 4, yes, I know it sounds like something out of a movie. It's not. Well, we're all thinking that. I don't care if he smashed his phone. He's lucky he didn't punch him. Now for an update. He says, first off, I'd like to thank everyone for the enormous outpouring of support. I've had numerous people offering to their well wishes privately and such compassion from those who commented. I believe it was this support as well as that from my friends that kept me from doing anything stupid. I'll try to keep this as concise and short sentence as possible. It's been a busy couple of days, to say the least. I unblocked both their numbers shortly after posting. My now ex called again that night, which I answered. I told her if she wasn't calling to make plans to pick up her stuff, I was hanging up. And we decided on the next morning. I called a platonic female friend of mine that night, and she agreed to be at my place before my ex showed up as a witness. Very smart, brother. Very smart. I had everything packed up and waiting by the door. She showed up as expected and started crying immediately when I came out. Shocker. When I came out with her stuff and trying to pull the bags to the ground so I'd have my hands free for a hug. I put the bags beside her car and asked her to check if I missed anything, which she refused. I agreed to a quick hug. I went to hug her. Told her to take care and walked inside. My friend pulled the chair she was sitting on my porch over so it was in the front of my door and told her that she was calling the cops if she didn't leave. She did, and I blocked her number again. Good. What is she going to explain? You were effing my son. And this guy, after his wife died and went through that whole thing there, horrible depression because it sounds like he and his wife passed away, had a good thing going. And this is what she does, knowing how obviously he's got issues. And messing with a kid, because I mean, his son's 21. He's a grown-ass man. He's responsible for his own actions, but still. I texted and called my son numerous times and left a voicemail telling him that we needed to talk. But first, he had to come clean to his girlfriend and accept responsibility for his actions. Good. He didn't respond, so I called her myself. We chatted for a while, and she told me he was out with a friend. I asked if he had spoken to her about anything recently, and she said no. So I told her myself, mostly because I felt it was the right thing to do, and she was a victim in this too. But I'll admit partially because he's a grown man now, and he needs to deal with the consequences. This should be good. He showed up to my place that evening, and I let him in. I'm ashamed to say I wasn't nearly as calm as I hoped to be. He asked if ruining his relationship made me feel better, and I told him that he ruined it. He did ruin it. Pretty much any hope of productive conversation went out the window, and it became a screaming match. At which point, I told him to get out and figure out how to deal with being alone as I was. He slapped me in the head. Oh, it's on now, sonny boy. This is a kid who never even threw a toy out of anger in childhood, who wasn't even spanked. As disgusting and twisted as it is, this exploded into a physical fight with me being struck in the face multiple times while trying to restrain him, as I didn't have it in me to hit him. My son very much not being a fighter, while in my younger years, I very much was, until I took him off his feet and held him on the floor. I never felt that level of rage before, how incredibly overwhelming it was. So his son's punching at him and everything, but he's not hitting him, even though no one can blame him. But if you ever encountered someone that's throwing punches and going all crazy, and you're trying to hold them down, you're gonna get whacked. When I saw the fear in his face, I let him up and sat beside him on the floor. I told him to get out. He started crying and told me that his mother would be ashamed of him. This made me break down, pathetically so, and realize how effed up this wild thing had been. I agreed that she'd be ashamed of both of us, and we hugged while he cried into my chest, something he hasn't done since my wife passed away. He asked if it was too late to talk, and I told him it wasn't. I cleaned myself up, we sat at the kitchen table and talked. He told me that he'd stopped therapy a while ago and lied about it because he felt it wasn't helping. He told me that he was hurt when I kept my girlfriend from him the first year because although he knew it was to prevent him from getting attached, if it didn't work out, he still felt excluded. That's not an excuse to go hooking up with her, jackass. I get the kid was messed up and all that, but even still. It came out that he hid a very well-concealed alcohol problem from me, and even his girlfriend. He told me he didn't sleep with her to spite me, that he was just feeling lost and he made a stupid choice. Yeah, but you made that choice multiple times. I asked him why he couldn't have been honest with me before it came to this, and he told me he didn't feel like he could be honest with himself anymore. Well, he's damaged and fucked up, but still he was nailing your girl. We cried together again, prayed together despite neither of us being religious, looked through family photo albums together. We discussed the road forward, and we agreed that the loss we both felt went far deeper than we thought. We decided on attending therapy together. We're going to look into support groups for both his drinking and other families dealing with loss. And now that he's without his girlfriend, and I'm aware of the extent of his issues, I agree to let him move back home with me so I can make sure he attends his appointments and avoids alcohol. And hopefully so we can bond again, with the stipulation that any more violence and he's out the door. This guy is a very loving father. A lot of fathers would have been, "We're done, son." And you couldn't blame him. Again, I'm not a parent, so I don't know these things. I'm a parent of 2 cats, and my cats aren't going to sleep with any girlfriend I have. But this guy, they're both messed up. But there's got to be a whole lot of time for any moving on from this and trust can be established. He asked me if I can ever forgive him, and I told him honestly that I couldn't, but he's still my son and I love him. And I reminded him of what his mother told me when he was a kid, that everyone messes up, it's what you do afterwards that makes a difference. I'll never forgive what he did, but if he can learn from this and become a better person, then I can forget it and have a great relationship with him regardless. Aside from the fact that my lip resembles the mouth of vampires from Blade 2 for now, which has prompted concern from our neighbors and friends, the past 2 days have been great. We've been talking, we cooked together, dinner together, and we've gone on walks, and we're set to start looking into professional help this coming week. He's incredibly apologetic and has a tenderness I haven't seen in him in years. I have no illusions about the amount of work to be done, nor how serious this incident was, but I'm feeling very optimistic about the future. Well, I wish them the best of luck. That kid needs therapy and AA and a sponsor and all that. One, to take care of the alcohol problems, and therapy and working a lot of other things out that have not been resolved. So is the dad too. Hopefully they can heal together. And the dad said he ain't going to forgive him, or he'll forgive him, but he won't forget, or whatever the hell it was. Because that's a barrier. You can't come back from. Right? And the son, it wasn't like the son was like some 14-year-old kid when you hear these stories about where older woman seduces a young boy, usually in school. He was a grown-ass man, 21 years old. And there are fathers out there be like, "We're done, asshole. Support yourself." But this guy's a different type of guy, and I wish them both the best. But good Lord, can't make this shit up. Or maybe you can, but we're going to give the devil's advocate here. This is a true story. And as for that girl, send her to the streets. But nothing surprised me on that part of the story at all. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below what you think about this. Let's hear it. What do you think? How you should have handled it? Do you agree with the father trying to rebuild with the kid? He knows the kid's messed up, or you think the dad should have kicked his ass to the curb? I'd like to hear what you think about this. And I'd also like to hear if you ever heard any stories about any fathers, sons hooking up with their new girlfriends or wives or anything like that. I'd like to hear about it. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.